I've been wanting to make a video for a while about emotional health and spiritual health and where it fits in the whole wheel of exercise, physical health, mental health, and why I think that there's a sort of separate strand to this that is probably worth everyone who's trying to improve their self is probably worth considering. I've been wanting to talk about this for probably quite a while, mainly because I'm a personal trainer who owns a gym, who is responsible for training a few hundred people every week, and and my job is to help people feel better about themselves by helping them improve their strength, their fitness, I guess their nutrition, which it all ties into improving on a more general level your mental health, which is undoubted. Anyone that's experienced the runner's high, endorphin rush at the end of a run or the end of a workout will tell you it makes you feel good. And then in more general terms, like following a consistent structured exercise routine gives you a sense of purpose, and it helps us give you that time and focus on that one thing you're doing in the moment, which can have an overall positive effect on your general moods, I guess, on a day-to-day basis. You sleep better, etc. So there is undoubtedly a link between the two, but there is a sort of third element, or a third element, if you want to call mental health one and physical health two. The third element for me is something that's really complicated to talk about. From a personal point of view, I'll try and talk about it generally without going into details, but it's more difficult to talk about because I think it's quite hard to actually convey fully what I'm trying to put across. So I'm going to try my best here, because when I think back to when my business, I guess, was at its peak pre-COVID, I was training between the gym in Rutherglen and down at the shed. I was probably about 500 people on a weekly basis. We're going through the strength and conditioning programs, and about 13 or 14 coaches to help deliver on that. And on the face of it, everything was a good operation. It worked really well, obviously. And me personally, again, on the face of it, I was probably in the best shape of my life. I was strong, I was lean, had low body fat, I was fast, blah blah blah, six pack. Had all the things that on a superficial level that you look at on social media or whatever. And if you're someone who's wanting to get into shape, that might be an aspiration, a long-term aspiration, or in terms of, and I don't mean that, I'm not trying to say everyone wanted to be like that. I just mean what you see online, that if you're fit, and the message generally is that if you're fit and lean and you're healthy. But at my physical peak health, I was like I was at my worst, like mentally, or more specifically spiritually, because I think when I say mentally, like on a superficial level, you can turn up and you can deliver a session with the same level of enthusiasm. It's almost like you just put on not a show, that's the wrong word, right? Because I'm not a rock star, you know what I mean? But what I mean is, like, you can just put on a mask, I guess, to get through the session. So, but I guess ultimately, underneath it all, like, I was at my worst in terms of my behaviours, in terms of my lack of appreciation of what really mattered, which was obviously Kathleen, and which ties into a lack of gratitude, I guess, for what you do have. And on top of that, just a lack of, or a loss of perspective. And obviously I wasn't always like that, and then I went through a stage where I was undoubtedly like that, and it's those behaviours, those attitudes that the people that you don't really see on a day-to-day basis don't experience that, I guess. It's the people that matter to you, ironically, the most, that suffer the most from that, which was obviously, well, Kathleen, I guess, and other people around me, maybe my sisters, mum, friends and stuff, but mainly Kathleen. But and the boys, I mean, obviously we have more kids now than we did back then, but and the reason this is important for me to talk about is, I guess, it's when I look back, like, I think sometimes, especially with social media, or maybe not even just social media, like, if someone's in good shape and they totally are comfortable with what they're doing, which I am when it comes to strength delivering programs, you can maybe make the assumption that they've got it all together, and that if they're really good at something and really in shape, for example, then they're obviously they must be also be really good in every way. And that's obviously, for me, that wasn't the case back then. So, and what I've learned, I guess, over the years is that one of the best ways, I think, like, to improve relationships and improve oneself, like in a sort of spiritual and emotional way, is to have the ability to self-reflect and sort of scrutinise your own behaviours and your own actions, and how they're maybe going to impact on others and that doesn't necessarily mean on an acute level. So like I said, it can affect, it could be something quite mild. It could be something that you've not even considered that could be negative that on someone else, and it's possible that there isn't anything that you need to work on, that you're becoming enlightened, you are enlightened as a person, and that you're always sort of like considering like how your actions and behaviours, and you're always thinking of others. But I think it's just something I've learned, that one of the best ways you can stay spiritually healthy is by taking ownership of your actions, and also not just about staying healthy, but actually like growing on an emotional level. Growing is about taking ownership of your behaviour, and not looking for excuses, and not looking for others to blame. And it's something that I think most people in the world have probably were maybe all predisposed to doing the opposite and blaming everyone or blaming others. Because I guess if you look at children, like obviously if they do something wrong, right, or something they shouldn't be doing, like the automatic is to say, oh, they started it, or they did this, or they did that first, and they do that. So it's almost like a sign of emotional development and spiritual development, that you're able to grow and no longer do that. And I think from my personal experience, it's almost like it's one of the biggest growths I've gone through. Is not that I was the opposite of that for my life before that. I wasn't, but it's almost like you get to a point and you start to, like, things start to hit you, and you start to really start to work things out on a broader scale, like that are maybe linked to your past, your upbringing, like everything, and recognising that it can all impact you to this day. And it's maybe it's almost that you get to a point where you've got two choices. You can either continue down the path you're on, or you can stop, take ownership, and look in the mirror, and then from that moment onward, like, look to try and take action to make amends, I guess, for anything you've done that you're not proud of in the past. Like, I was watching a documentary the other night about Billy Joel, who's a musician, for those that don't know, well, you should know. And he said that he asked a chef once, how did you get so good? And the chef said, it's all in the recovery. How you recover from the mistakes. And I saw such a great metaphor for life generally. And I've recognised that it's such a key part of remaining spiritually healthy. It's like constantly working on yourself and constantly doing things that are going to feed the positive side of it, that'll help. And one of those things is obviously practicing gratitude. Another thing is taking actual action. Words aren't enough. Like, it's about taking actual action. So, for example, I made the conscious decision to downsize my business. Like, I even took days away. So, like, for example, I keep Mondays and Wednesdays, there's no sessions on the evening, and that's so that I can deliver, like, football coaching for my boys. So, and also because I've downsized it all from 500 to 200 members, generally speaking, approximately, then it just means I've got a lot more focus on prioritising, like, Kathleen and the kids and the things that really matter. And at the same time, it's about constantly, well, I'm going to pause it a wee sec. Like, I've come to recognise that, like, helping others and trying to, like, give time and actions to things that really matter help to keep you in a sort of, like, straight path. Not too dissimilar to the 12-step programme. So for anyone that's familiar with the 12-step programme, they'll know that the 12-step is essentially about like helping others, like who have treaded the same path that you have treaded, like of addiction, and it's powerful. It works. It really works, and it's this sense of unity and community, and also, but then eventually serving others, and helping others through compassion and non-judgment, I guess, is what can allow people. It's just to continue to stay healthier mentally and spiritually, and I just think it's such an important element of health that isn't spoken about, because ultimately, like, it's more important than any physical transformation. It's more important than how much protein you eat in a day and how lean you are. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, and sometimes, certainly in my case, like, it's like, it didn't matter how it doesn't matter how fit and in shape I was and whatever. Like, it didn't matter how quick I was. Like, these things were not just distractions, but they were just like, they weren't important, because I was unhealthy. I was so unhealthy with what really mattered in life, and it's only through a lot of work on a personal level to grow, and also through a huge amount of, like, I don't know, compassion and love from Kathleen, that sort of blossomed, allowed everything to blossom. So I guess I'm just trying to say that the best thing most folk can do for their overall health is train and eat well, but try and adopt a mindset of reflection, and humility. And don't get me wrong, it's not that to become a pushover and never react and you're going to be obviously, no, I don't mean that, because you have to have your own boundaries and standards in certain things, but it's just like, life is so much more than just getting in shape, and you can get into great shape and still be totally miserable if you've not delved deeper. And for me, delving deeper means looking at yourself, not looking at others to make you happy or looking at others to solve your problems. It's about you. But that's a difficult thing for most folk to do. That's why we don't do it. That's why I didn't do it for so long. It's painful because it's humbling. It's humbling, and it's about recognising all the bad that's in you and not running away from it, and instead try to work on it and improve it and become a better version of yourself, which will ultimately benefit the people that care about you, as well as benefiting yourself. So everyone wins from that. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there, because I guess it's, like I said, it's quite a broad topic. It's quite difficult to summarise for me, but it's just something I wanted to, I just feel it's important for me to get it off my chest for the hundreds of people that come and train every week.